Welcome back, everyone. I'm joined by the high school sports editor, assistant high school sports editor of the Telegram Gazette and Home Team Magazine, Jim Wilson. Willie, as always, always good to see you. And this week we have some extra time, which is nice. We can kind of slow down and talk instead of just going rapid fire through everything.
After the 7-minute mark, we'll just be staring at each other.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
It'll be 5 minutes of silent TV. Let's talk about some of the big games coming up this week, and starting with St. Peter Marion and Shepherd Hill. Huge game for both teams. Even though both teams are going to be in the playoffs, this is a game seedings-wise, this is a game confidence-wise, and these are also two teams that may meet in the postseason.
These are two of the teams that probably, if you look at the schedules in Central Mass, they probably play the toughest schedules out of everybody. They don't back down from everybody. There's no week off to really rest and recuperate. So they're banging heads every week. So it should be a great game, because I'm curious to see if Shepherd Hill has a chance to the weapons that St. Peter Marion has.
Yes.
I mean, you saw every week they're giving people headaches. So you stop the passing game, the running game. It's going to bite you. And I think Shepherd Hill will have a good test this week. But you know what? They've been saying that every week about Shepherd Hill. Can they stop these guys? And every week they have. I mean, that's been a good test for them. I think they're going to give St. Peter Marion all they can handle. It's
a nice contrast in styles. It's kind of like in the 1980s when you had Nebraska versus Miami. You have the great skilled players of St. Peter Marion, and then you have the great strength of Shepherd Hill. And to see who wins out in this game is going to be really interesting. St. John's and Wachusett, it's a rivalry game. It's right now Wachusett's just kind of looking to get that first victory. This would make their season, beating St. John's. Meanwhile, for St. John's, coming off a tough emotional loss to the crosstown rival Shrewsbury, so looking to get right back in the winning column.
Right. Every week, I think every year we say, if Wachusett's going over, if they get that one win over St. John's, it's going to make their season. And this year it might actually happen, because Wachusett, they're a very good team. They have a lot of kids in the school. They're talented, one of the better coaching staffs around.
Yep.
You're looking at them and say, why aren't they more successful on the field? It's just not translating for whatever reason. Injuries, plays breaking the wrong way. The win over St. John's, and he was coming off a loss to Shrewsbury last week. They're looking for a little redemption, coming off that win over Neshoba, and then they'd fall back a little bit with that tough loss. Was he offsides? Was he not offsides?
Right.
The whole thing you've been hearing about all weekend.
Film.
Exactly. I'm waiting for that. Give me on Huddle. Let me see it. I'll put it online.
I have it on my phone. I did get it texted to me by a few people.
Really, it's back. It was like right after the final out. I got all the emails in my box saying, "How can you not talk about it? Because he was offsides. He wasn't offsides. Great call." But they want to, they want to right the ship there real quick, because 2-game losing streak for St. John's, is not tolerated.
Right.
So really, right there, they want it, over the rival, even better.
Yeah, and then you look at Leicester and Uxbridge, and this was a game that it looked like a couple weeks ago, maybe Leicester and Uxbridge both come in undefeated. West Boylston beating Leicester last week and beating them soundly. So Leicester looking for redemption. Meanwhile, Uxbridge coming in with a perfect 5-0 record. The Spartans right now riding a big wave of confidence, and they should be confident. They're undefeated. They've been playing some great football.
Right, and you know what? In Uxbridge, they know they've been playing well. Great season for them. First-year coach. Doing a great job with the players. They have great quarterback, some solid running backs. They're doing the job, but they need that big win. I mean, you'll look at them and say, I say it all the time in my chats and everything. Show me something. Show me, you need to have that win that you can hang your hat on and say, we belong in this discussion. Marlboro last week had it with their win, over Neshoba. That put them into the, higher up in the poll. It really showed that Marlboro belongs in the discussion of these great teams. Uxbridge wants that. They know they're a great team. They want to show it to everybody else. Winning over Leicester, regardless of what they did last week, they know that they can hang their hat on that and show they belong in this upper echelon of great teams. Leicester, on the other hand, they were embarrassed last week. Let's just say it, because
they were.
They look
and
at
their
that.
coaching staff said it.
Right, exactly. They know they have the kids. They have the heart for a game to come up with that Auburn game and show that that phenomenal win without Mazzio. We talked about the week before, saying can they do it without Mazzio? Roderick put the team on the back. Padini and McKay and those guys showed. That defense is just phenomenal by thumping Auburn. Nobody really thumps Auburn. I don't care what year it is.
Right.
And they were able to do it and then come out and lay an egg against West Boylston. And it wasn't a trap game. West Boylston is a really good team, so it's hard not to say, how did they lose to West Boylston? West Boylston is one of the best teams in Division 6.
Right.
So to have that, they need something to show. They need to come out and thump Uxbridge and show they're right back on track.
And it was a rematch of the Super Bowl that West Boylston won. So there was plenty of incentive for Leicester going into that one. Auburn and Holy Name. You and I were talking about that this morning when we were talking on the phone. And this is a game that, going back 2 years, 3 years, you would have loved to see this game. It's still going to be a huge game. It's going to be worth the price of admission. It's a big game for both teams. For Holy Name, it's really the playoffs riding on. I mean, right now they're tied with Nipmuc, I think, and one other team for that 8th spot. Right. If they win they're probably in the playoffs. Meanwhile, for Auburn, they know this is a big test, and again, a step up, a couple of steps up in division. So it's one of those, you win this and you put that pelt up on your wall.
Right. I want, bring the Flinks back for this one. I want Corey Brown out there. I want Potvin. It's one of those games all year. It's like, what if these two teams played each other? It's finally happening, which I love to see, because like for all the reasons you said, it's bragging rights. It's good. It's two of the best coaching staffs around going at it, matching wits, and see what, put your best in the field, we'll put our best in the field, and see what happens. Both teams will play anybody. So, like I said, I think Auburn needs this game just to, get another one of those wins going into the playoffs, building up. They know they're not the juggernaut they usually are. They need that, the thump holding in, come in, on some good role in the playoffs. Holy Name, just like I said, they're fighting for their lives. They don't win over to Holy Name, win over Auburn, rather shows everybody else they still belong in the conversation of great playoff teams. So I think they need to, can they stop Mark Wright? Can they stop that offense? And get some points on that defense, which is every year is going to be tough to do. So I think that's good to watch for that game.
Yeah, it certainly will be. And Auburn coming off that good win over Gardner a week ago. And Holy Name's a team that, believe it or not, is getting healthier as the season goes on. Most teams at this point in the season are getting weaker because they're losing guys to injuries. Holy Name's got some skill guys and key guys that are coming back this week, and some that came back last week. So they're a team that's getting healthier and kind of looking to get that ball rolling. If they get into the playoffs, they could be one of those teams that no one wants to play just because of the way they're going. Leominster-Neshoba is another good game. I mean, Leominster has taken on everyone in the state, has taken on all comers. They've had the bullseye on their chest all year long. They've risen to the challenge each and every week. Neshoba, meanwhile, coming off 2 losses in a row. And remember, of course, we had the 29-game winning streak, so the last time they lost 2 in a row, I mean, you might have to go back 5 years from now. So it's uncharted water for these players on this Chieftains team, but there's a lot of pride in that locker room, and they know a win over Leominster right now puts them right back to the top of the heap.
Nobody's talking about those 2 losses after if they beat Leominster, still the #1 team, who's, like you said, turned aside everybody that's come across their sidelines. Nobody's talking about what's wrong with the Chieftains. They lost 2 in a row. What's happening? They get that win, and they have a talented team. They can do it. But you know what? That Leominster team, beating Doherty at their own field by 3 touchdowns says a lot about how good they are. They can do it in many different ways. You got guys like Mason Williams and Ado, and Neil O'Connor just doing it all. It's tough for them to stop, and I don't know if Neshoba has that kind of athletes on the other side of the ball to really. I heard they're banged up. They had the game against Marlboro the week before. Let Marlboro back into it. They got the win. They have a lot of stuff to correct over there. This is a good pride game for them.
We're talking about a great game from a week ago, and you talk about athletes on that Leominster team. Leominster and Doherty. It was a great matchup, great skill guys on each side, and it was really fun to watch that one. Doherty leading 19-10 at the end of the first half, and it was guys like Alfred Adarkwa and Isaac Yadam making plays for Doherty and being put in a position where it's man coverage, and we got the matchup we want. Luke Brennan putting it right up there, hanging it high where only Adarkwa can go up and get it and take it like a jump ball. That was a fun game to watch. And credit Leominster because they made the adjustments they needed to make at halftime to come out, stop that Doherty attack, and then get the ball rolling themselves on offense.
Right, Coach Dave Pilates just said it at halftime. I didn't have to do this big speech where he's breaking watches and yelling and screaming. He just knew his seniors would say, we got to turn this thing around. And that's what they did. They looked at what was not working that first half, what they needed to fix, who they needed to cover, what they needed to watch out for. And everything went their way. They blew them out in the second half, and they really it was a different team.
Yes.
And I think that was really important for Leominster to show they can do that, because they've been doing it all season as far as, just how do we beat this, how do we beat Natick, how do we beat
St. John's
and Lowell. We talked about it last week. They're beating teams a different way every time.
Yes.
And they were able to counter those athletes and giving so many people headaches around Central Mass and Doherty, and they would just shut them down in the second half and get in the end zone a lot.
And the St. John Shrewsbury, we talked about the game there, the text rolling into you and the videos rolling in, but great high school football game. I mean, this is a phenomenal high school football game. It's a game that the kids on the Shrewsbury team will talk about 5 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years. Whenever they see each other, they're going to point to this game and go, remember that game against St. John's? Because, first of all, the punt that they had, they punt down it on the 1 yard line. St. John's has it on the 1 yard line, under a minute to go with no timeouts. And Drew Smiley moves the team all the way down the field, and they get into field goal range with a good kicker, and you're thinking, this is unbelievable, just the way they marched down the field. It was great. And then Shrewsbury to come up with the block, and the kids pour on the field. I mean, it was just a great atmosphere, a great high school football game.
Terry Wallace always brings the most out of his team in those bigger games. I mean, you look at Shrewsbury, I'm a little upset. I sort of put them aside because they're getting healthier every week.
Yes.
Every week they're getting another big key to that puzzle back.
True.
And so I think, a lot of people are counting out the Colonials. I don't think you can do that anymore.
No, and certainly not when now Jake McVane is back, who's a great two-way player. McVane scored a huge touchdown against St. John's when he was in at quarterback, faking to Diliberto, because Diliberto's been a guy, and Diliberto wants the ball every time. He wants to carry it 40 times a game. He wants everyone on that defense to focus in on him, and he'll try to run through them all. So he's a horse. Now you get McVane back there, who's 200, 220 pounds, whatever he is, runs fast. He can still throw the ball a little bit too, but you have that element of just a bruising runner. Then you have Emmanuel Jalbert as well, great two-way player, but another guy, another piece to your puzzle on offense. This is a real tough team to stop.
And that's what we talk all year through history with how you give Terry a couple weapons.
Yes.
And that's what he's not throwing the ball as much and it's killing him.
Yes.
But he's getting the job done on the ground, and in defense, he has those guys he can rely on and say, okay, hey, you want to stop McVane? That's fine. Delio will come out and just knock you in your butt. So I mean that's big for Shrewsbury to have that kind of people, like you said, they're getting healthy every week. They're getting those horses to take them into playoffs.
And Terry adapts to the weapons that he has. I mean, that's what, like you said, he'd rather throw the ball 50 times a game, but he knows the weapons that he has. We have about a minute left talking about Dan Orlando. We got to get into Dan Orlando because we saw his game against Quabbin. It was our game of the week, but you can't say enough about him as a football player. I'd take, and any coach in Central Mass would take 11 Dan Orlandos and put them on the field and play anyone in the state because just what a competitor he is. He's quarterback, free safety. He's on every single special teams. There's a guy who didn't take a single snap off all game long. Had to be just physically, mentally exhausted. He's it's just inspiring to see him. Such a great football player and a tough football player.
Westboro, I was talking to Terry this morning. Westboro could be the 3-win, have 3 of those wins. Not a problem. Marlboro, Hudson, Quabbin, they're in those games. A lot is because of Orlando. I mean, because he's willing that team to just not give up and say, hey, we're look on paper, no way we should be in this game. They're playing, you wish for that coaching staff and for those kids, they would have better results to show for the hard work they're putting into, because they have a lot of heart over there in Westboro. They're going to be a tough out the rest of the way.
Yeah, they certainly are. All right, Jim, we're out of time. 12 minutes. It went by like that. Felt like 4. We'll see you next week with Jim Wilson. We got more on the Frenzy Extra coming up right after this.